Is my 32F friend 35F potentially a danger to me? Hi everyone, first post on Reddit, not happy about the circumstances. This is long, but has some pretty weird twists I need perspective on. So diving in, I live with my husband, 45M, in an apartment that is the entire second floor of a 2-story building, the first floor being a sweet shop, bakery. It was one of the many reasons we were drawn to this apartment in particular. We've lived here for about a year and I've frequented the shop many times and gotten to know the staff and started becoming friendly with one of the employees there. This employee would always go out of her way to talk to me and kind of use me as a chance to practice her English. I am an American living in a country where there aren't a ton of foreigners, especially in the area where I currently live. I've lived in this country for about 12 years and speak the language well, but people often want to speak with me in English because of the rare opportunity. I usually just go with it to be nice and not give a bad impression of foreigners here. So this employee takes a liking to me and I share some stuff about what's going on with me, ask her about herself, etc., just friendly conversation. She asked me if we could exchange contact info and I was like, sure, why not? Now I regret this. Communication was a bit awkward, because her messages kind of lack emotion, emojis, exclamation points, etc., so I didn't feel like we had a good back and forth. Winter rolls around and I tell her that I'm going back home to the US for the holidays with my husband. The employee says she has a present for me and to tell her when I can go to the shop to get it from her. I'm surprised, but like, oh, that's really sweet. So I give her a time and date and go get the present. She also gives me another present to give to my family when I'm in the US. I was like, OMG, that's so thoughtful. She explained that my present contained handicrafts made by local people with mental illness, and I thought that was so wonderful. I wanted to give her something in return and I happened to do paintings, so I gave her some nice tea and one of my smaller paintings. She thanked me, but gave almost no reaction to the gift. I was kind of confused, because usually people are like, I didn't know you paint. Thank you, but she was pretty silent. I was like, damn, I guess she doesn't like it or she doesn't have this social skill. She never mentioned the painting again, but texted me asking about where I got the tea. Lol. Here's where things get questionable. I went to the US and gave my older brother and his fiancée the gift intended for my family and it contained similar handicrafts and a handwritten letter in English. The letter was in perfect English and was basically saying how much joy I bring to her when I visit the shop and how I'm this amazing person. Sounds nice, right? I was pretty surprised, because these were some pretty intense words for a regular at a shop. But I was just like, well, I'm glad I made a good impression. So things escalate a bit. She asks if I'd like to attend a pretty major community event in our city together. I was interested in going, because it had been cancelled since the beginning of COVID, around the time I moved to this area, and I'd never been before. So we agreed on a time and date and met up at the metro and went together to the park the event was being held at. The event was great, but our conversation was terrible and awkward. I tried to get some back and forth going by asking what got her interested in learning English and she told me that she wants to talk to foreigners and marry a foreigner. I felt uncomfortable, because I'm a foreigner married to a man native to this country and don't like to feel fetishized. Still I was like, have you tried dating foreign guys? It's easy to meet people on dating apps these days, it's actually how I met my husband. And she says, they never like me. I was like, maybe you just haven't met the right person yet. I dated plenty of different people until I found the right one. We just got lucky that we found each other when we did. Now we're married and thinking about kids. It's crazy. She responds with, I want a half baby. Internally I'm like no, I found myself someone who's just obsessed with foreigners and has no interest in me as a person. She asks me if I want to get dinner and I suggest somewhere light and quick, like a cafe, but she would rather go to a restaurant. So we end up getting dinner and it's silent until she suddenly asks, is it okay if I use my phone to text for a moment? My mom just had surgery today and she might be messaging me. I'm like, of course. Are you sure you don't want to be with your mom right now rather than spending time with me? She says, my mom didn't want me to know the name of her hospital, so I don't know where she is. Alarm bells ringing in my head. Why wouldn't her own mother want her to know where she is? Is she afraid she might do something? After she finishes texting, she starts to talk about how when she was a little girl, her grandmother gave her lots of expensive porcelain dolls. This isn't an uncommon thing here around a certain time of year. Her mom put the dolls on display for her, but she said she had a nightmare about the doll strangling her with its elongated neck, like it had become a monster. In the nightmare, she grabbed a kitchen knife and slit the doll's throat. Then when she woke up, in real life she went to the doll in question and snapped its neck, breaking the head off of the doll. I heard this story and immediately was like, where the F did this come from? We weren't even remotely talking about anything close to this topic and she just, yeah. We part ways and I tell my husband about what she said. He was like, that's creepy, but maybe it was her way of trying to make conversation? I'm like, maybe. She definitely has some kind of mental illness, because the shop on the first floor mainly employs capable people who happen to have mental illnesses. I try to be empathetic towards her and forget about it. I go to the shop a bit less often than usual, but I see her there again eventually. She says she wants to hang out during the national holidays coming up. I say that I'm having 3 guests, including a toddler, coming to stay with me from 2 different countries. I'm gonna be pretty busy. The truth was, my husband and I were finally having the wedding of our dreams and some of my friends would be staying with us for a bit. I didn't want to tell her about the wedding, because it might make things awkward, as she's not invited. She was like, oh. Let me take you and your friends around for sightseeing. Where are they from? I tell her and she's clearly excited at the thought of spending time with foreigners, even though 2 of my guests were native to this country, just living abroad. I was like, oh, that would be so helpful, but I'm really not sure about our schedule yet, because we'll be pretty busy. She was like, I'll tell you my schedule over text and you can tell me your schedule. I was like, oh no, I really don't want this to happen, but I've dug myself into this hole. She texted me and I didn't reply, because I didn't know what to say and I was really busy with the upcoming wedding. One day I thought I could pop into the shop when she wasn't around and buy something quick to eat, but when I spoke to the cashier, she ran out from the kitchen and accosted me. She grabbed the shop's table calendar and was like, when are you free? Can you tell me now? And I said, I'm sorry, I really don't know, it's actually my wedding in just a few days, so I'm really busy right now, it's been pretty stressful. And she says nothing regarding the wedding, no congratulations, no reaction. She just says, text me back when you know when you're free. She later texts me again. I'm friggin' overwhelmed. I ignore her text. My guests from abroad come to my place and things get even busier. Preparing for our big day while taking care of our guests was exhausting. But we have the wedding, it was incredible and a dream come true by the way. Then we go about preparing for taking everyone sightseeing the next morning after the wedding. My husband goes and parks the car in front of the building. My friends go outside and I say to start piling into the car. I'll get my stuff and lock up, so everyone go ahead. I eventually go outside and am bombarded by the employee. My friends are all awkwardly standing around the car like, what's going on? Apparently she had been asking them where I was. So she starts rambling to me about these plans and ideas she has for taking my friends out, and I'm like, hey, we're actually on our way out now. And she just bulldozes over what I said and goes on about how we should take the train, not a car, to her desired destination. She keeps saying how we should go, just the 3 of us, to this place. Now, by saying the 3 of us, this means just her, me, and the other American. Not my husband, not my non-American friends, just the 3 of us. It was freaking me out. My husband jumps in and says, we have to go, takes my hand and saves me from the exchange. After talking with my husband, I was like, how do I get out of this? And he suggested that I say that something came up and I can't meet up with her during the national holidays. So I text her and apologize that I can't meet up because of a family gathering. She says that she has a present for my American friend and that she'll hang it on my doorknob. To me this is a huge privacy violation, but I didn't know what to do and was afraid of possible repercussions, so I said, thank you. The present contained another handwritten letter and some little treats, but after hearing everything, my friend was feeling pretty uncomfortable. They'd never even had a conversation and she was getting a heartfelt letter and gifts. I decide to create some boundaries by speaking in a more formal manner to her, which creates a sense of distance in this language. She hasn't gotten the hint, and almost the exact same scenario of her running out from the kitchen to talk with me happened when I recently visited the shop, because I caught a cold and needed something quick and easy to eat. She pulled out the calendar and was demanding to know when I was free. I had a fever and sore throat and told her that I wasn't feeling well and wanted to go rest, but she wouldn't let up. I was wearing a mask by the way. I am feeling responsible for getting myself into this situation, but am at a loss as how the hell to get out. Reddit. How do I get out of this friendship? By the way, since we're in the same building, we share a landlord and our landlord is invested in the business downstairs. Too long did not read. Became friends with a shop staff member with a mental illness. Got uncomfortable, feeling unsafe being around her, and don't know how to get out of the friendship in a sensitive manner. Edit. The country is not relevant to the story and I'm keeping it private to prevent hate speech or assumptions unrelated to the situation. Thank you for understanding. As well as all this, maybe get a doorbell camera if you can, so that you can have any video footage handy in case she does keep dropping by. This is a whole lot of overreaction emo. It sounds like she just thinks you guys are better friends than you think. There's literally no reason to think she's a danger, and it honestly sounds like you're attributing it a lot to her being mentally ill when again she's presented no signs of danger. Just cut her off. Why do I feel like the country in question is Japan? You may have to move. Whether she knows she is pushing your boundaries, or just isn't socially aware, it's important to tell her. For example, when you said you weren't sure about your schedule when people are visiting, it would be better to say, "No, I don't want to go sightseeing. We have other things planned." It may seem rude, but you can still have a kind tone of voice while being direct. A lot of people aren't used to speaking this way, but it's very useful for people who have trouble with subtlety and social cues. Her obsession with foreigners, however, is not something you can directly draw a boundary around, aside from kindly saying, "I don't want to talk about that. Let's talk about something else." So if that gets too extreme, then I see how it could get annoying. Yeah. As commented by someone else above, stop visiting the shop and avoid any further contact and interactions with her. Not sure what kind of a person and how mentally stable she really is, but I probably wouldn't say much to her or even try to talk to her about boundaries. I would just limit contact with her. My boyfriend, 29 male, wants my daughter, 6 female, to call him daddy. My ex-Dean, 30 male, and I, 27 female, share 50-50 custody of my 6-year-old daughter named Santina. We broke up about 2 years ago on mutual terms, and are pretty good friends now. Even though my ex and I are no longer together, he is a great dad to co-parent with, and he absolutely adores Santina. She is the apple of his eye, and she adores him equally as much. I have been seeing someone new, Aiden, 29 male, for the past 8 months. He's been very good to me, and I enjoy his presence a lot. We have not said I love you yet, but I can see it happening very soon. When we first met, I made it clear that I had my daughter 50% of the time and that her father was very active in her life. Aiden was fine with this, and we got very close very fast. A couple of days ago I went to pick Santina up from Dean's house, and Dean asked to speak with me privately before we left. He seemed pretty mad, which is very unusual for him. He told me that Santina had asked him if he really loved her or not. He told her that he does love her, more than anyone, and wanted to know why she asked to begin with. She then revealed to him that Aiden had been pressuring her to call him daddy for the past few weeks without my knowledge, and that she should stop calling Dean daddy because Dean left us, which meant that he didn't love her as much as Aiden did. I was absolutely astounded and pretty furious. I told him I had no knowledge of this, but I would absolutely get to the bottom of it. On the way back to my house, I told Santina that I overheard Aiden asking her to call him daddy. I didn't want her to think Dean had betrayed her trust by telling me, and asked her how she felt about it. She said it made her mad because she already had a dad and didn't want another one, and that she was upset with Aiden for saying her daddy didn't love her because her daddy did love her. I reassured her that her dad did in fact love her more than anything on this planet, and that I would get Aiden to stop. She seemed visibly relieved. I tried to keep my face from revealing the pure rage I felt inside, because I didn't want her to think I was mad at her. Later that night, after Santina went to bed, I called Aiden to tell him he needed to come over to talk, and that it was very important. When he got to my house, I asked him in what world it's okay to tell my 6-year-old that her dad didn't love her and why he would tell her to call him daddy when she already has a very good one. He didn't skip a beat, saying that Santina needed parents who were together. That he loved her and I both, first time he's ever said this, and he spent enough time and money with her that he should be allowed to help parent her. Therefore, if he was going to parent her, he wanted to be called daddy and wanted Dean to only see Santina on the weekends. I was absolutely floored. I asked why he didn't speak to me about all this first before he decided to go ahead and do this. He said that she was young enough to teach her to call him daddy, and wanted to surprise me by her having her call him daddy, without me knowing he coached her. Basically as if she had just called him that all on her own. I angrily shut all that down immediately, saying that he was just my boyfriend, he has no place expecting to be my daughter's father, he's way out of line, and I needed some space from him. I asked him to leave. He started yelling, saying that I was being absolutely unreasonable. That any woman would be happy to know that their boyfriend wanted to love and be a dad to her child. That I'm being an asshole depriving my daughter from having a relationship with him. That he would be a way better father than Dean. When he said that, I absolutely snapped. I told him there is no better father for my daughter than Dean. He is a great man, and a great father. And that if he ever talks about Dean like that again, then we are through. He then accused me of still being in love with Dean. I told him to get out or I would call the police to have him escorted off my property. I am just totally flabbergasted and am trying to figure how I could have missed Aiden being absolutely insane, because only insane people think this way. And I felt pretty confident that I was in the right. Until today when I received multiple messages and phone calls from his friends and family. One called me a moron for not accepting Aiden as Santina's father, since her real father was a deadbeat by not paying child support. I never wanted any. Another said that I shouldn't have defended Dean so much because it makes look bad. His mother texted me and said that children should have parents who are together and that I should apologize to Aiden. His dad said that I was lucky that Aiden even wanted to be with someone who had a child and to be grateful that he wants to be Santina's father. I sent Aiden a text to call off his family and friends and that I want to take a break from him for a while. Now he's blowing my phone up telling me to think about what's best for Santina, and that he loves us both and would die if he lost us. Who is this man I've been dating? Did I jump into a parallel universe or something? Am I crazy for having reacted this way? Why is he so obsessed with my daughter calling him daddy? I've already called Dean and asked if we could stay with him for a few days because I didn't feel safe here and he agreed. We're leaving to go in the morning. What do I do here? I do really care for Aiden. Even my mom said that I blew this whole thing out of proportion and that I shouldn't break up with him for a little mistake. Do I sound crazy? I need some advice on what to do moving forward. Thank you in advance. Too long did not read. Boyfriend wants my daughter to call him daddy, but went behind me back to do so. Now he's mad at me and I'm not sure if we should continue the relationship. Posted in our advice originally, but someone messaged me and said to post here. You haven't even said I love you to this man and he's pressuring your daughter to call him daddy behind your back and telling your 6-year-old that her father doesn't love her. What more of a red flag do you need? And now his family is harassing you? Seriously. Put your kid first. This one should be a no-brainer. No. No 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 no. You do not have secrets with my child. No. Fuck him. No. Absolutely not. His friends and family are fighting you on his behalf, and because they support what he did, he's not going to change. Do yourself and your baby a favor and chalk it up to a learning experience. You can do bad all by yourself, you don't need his help. You being strong, and defending her father is going to be a lesson that baby girl is going to learn and grow from. I am sorry that Crazy and Crazy's crew came into your life, but you don't have to let them stay any longer. He's dangerous. Not necessarily physically but emotionally dangerous. Okay. I am starting to see comments about how you left her with him alone and they are freaking out. After dating someone for over 6 months it is okay to let your daughter have time with them I think. It isn't like you made a mistake there. That seems like plenty of time. I regret getting married young. 20F, 19M. Too long did not read. I'm 20F married to a 19M who's consistently lied to me since we were in high school, each lie being worse every time. I believed him and forgave him too many times. We're separated this time over financial infidelity and lack of intimacy. I'm trying to find the strength to divorce him and not feel like a failure. Have you experienced young divorce? My current husband and I have been together for almost 4 years and married for around 9 months. We are 10 months apart in age and are considered high school sweethearts. We were the dream that many kids were chasing while we were in school. We got married in Georgia during a hot and sunny August in 2022 miles from home up north. We had an apartment and a cat together back at my religious university. I had a great job at the time and had a large sum of money waiting for me when I won my injury lawsuit later in the year. But, instead of it feeling like a dream, for me it felt like a nightmare that I couldn't figure out how to wake up from. Our relationship before marriage was on and off. The 4th of July in 2020 was when the lying began. I, 17, had asked him, 16, if he'd like to come over and watch fireworks with me. Every holiday since we'd met, he'd come spend them with me and my family. He told me that his parents would leave him out of holidays and he'd always be alone. I wanted him to have a family to celebrate with, so I tried to include him as much as I could, and he'd be overjoyed to do so. But this time he told me he didn't want to. I was confused and asked him, "Why?" "I don't want you to be alone again. It's a holiday." But intuition told me there had to be an underlying reason. He was usually in his car the second I asked him. He told me he wanted to be alone and wanted to hang out with his dad when he got home. He furthered this reason saying, "I never spend time with my dad. He's always working." I believed him. He broke up with me suddenly that same night. I was upset, thinking that I had overdone trying to include him, and pushed him away. The next day, I got a text from a friend with a photo of my boyfriend and his ex. It was a screenshot of a Snapchat story. My friend asked, "Did you guys break up? Why are they together?" To say I was outraged was an understatement, and I had later found out that he had been visiting her and her father while we were together. He said this was purely platonic. But he never thought to tell me he was going there or why. This kind of situation would happen in many different ways all throughout our relationship, and I hate that I forgave him and believed his lies every single time. He later visited his ex and her new partner again about a year later at a hotel while they were homeless. He gave them $200 in cash. He did not tell me until I found out. He saved $500 to spend on my ring and my dress for our wedding. He spent it all on a cosmetic for his old car. The one thing about my husband that I find the most clearly manipulative is that he tries so hard to redeem himself, but it ends up being more damage. He went to a random house in Chicago for a few hours, then drove down to my university and delivered me $2,000. I asked him how he got it and what he did. The more I asked him, the more he didn't want to tell me. He would make up small details to tell me so I'd stop. I bought my wedding dress with it and still don't know to this day if it was bought with dirty money. He never did illegal substances or participated in illegal activity to my knowledge, but I still wonder. There are still many stories, but let me tell you how it destroyed our marriage once and for all. I eventually won injury money from a car accident that almost took my life. The amount I received I believed was a huge blessing to our future. One day in the end of December, I woke up to my husband gone. I walked through our apartment trying to find him. I called him. He never left a note or a text. A few hours later, he comes home with a brand new 2019 Toyota Avalon. He said, "Come look." The second I took a glimpse, I broke down into tears. I'm 20, he's 19. I am a student. While I paid for my overdue medical bills, our rent, and things that would lift a weight off us, he bought a luxury car. I said he needs to return it. We can't afford it, and he didn't discuss this purchase with me. We separated for a month. I moved my injury money to a personal account. We received therapy and things were going well. We moved into an apartment closer to his job. I switched schools and I thought he learned a valuable lesson. Recently, I started to notice money going missing again. He's sleeping on the couch and becoming distant. He told me he'd rather watch anime and play VR than spend time with me. I asked him hypothetically what he'd do if I secured my ultimate dream job and if he'd come with me if I went where that job is most common and profitable. He said he'd never do that for me. He's lost interest in me, but loves my money. Now, this is not about financial issues. This is about his lying, his secret keeping, his lack of care for me, and my own naiveness. Marrying young is already a large risk, but marrying someone you can't trust and is insanely flaky is worse. I'm separated from him and trying to find the courage to divorce him. It's hard enough knowing I'll spend my 20s with the divorce label. Have you experienced a young divorce? How do I find the strength to leave? Tia. Yeah, you made a mistake, but you are so young, it happens. Nobody labels you, if you file for annulment now. I think most of us did something stupid at your age. If you file now, you are free again soon. Living with the divorce label is far better than life with this guy. It's not a failure to get an annulment or an early divorce. It's taking responsibility for your mistakes and your life. Which is exactly what a clever person at your age should do. How do I find the strength to leave? By sitting in the shit feelings you're experiencing right now and deeply considering feeling like that for the rest of your life. Sound fun? This guy you married is a liar. That is never going to change. He is probably cheating on you as well. Just rip the band-aid off, and use some of that settlement to free yourself from this anchor. Better to be a young divorcee than a tired, lonely, angry 40-year-old woman with 3 kids still married to this guy. My wife, 36F, wants me, 37M, to make reparations. My wife and I have been at odds. We've been married for 1.5 years, together for 3-ish. We have been fighting on most days, which, in my perspective, usually ends with me supplicating even when I disagree, making apologies and trying to go along with her. She called me willful, which made my brain hurt, because I feel that I am constantly bending over backwards to please her, agree with her, try to help other people like her, smooth out relationships for her, etc. Today, she then stated that she didn't realize how much a past fight was affecting her. She said that I wronged her badly and that she cannot let go of it until I make serious and timely reparations. I don't like this as a model for a relationship. I believe in kindness, compassion, and forgiveness. She believes that I must feel pain, because pain will teach me the lesson. So I guess, what sorts of things can a man do to show appropriate penance and move forward? Edit additional context. Today, she was mad that I gave the baby the wrong milk at the midnight feeding. Yesterday she was mad because our neighbor is an idiot, and I'm starving the baby, and she said she was hungry but I didn't feed her. For a little more context, my wife was ill and my mother was in town to take care of the baby. My mother had asked me to leave my dog with her. We have 2. I usually take one on my business trips to lighten the load at home, because she would watch them both and the baby. My wife was mad because we had talked about me taking the dog and I violated that agreement. She doesn't think my mother was helpful enough, and my grandmother apparently called my wife to tell her that she thought my mother was being very giving and that my wife should be doing more. I think this was probably aggressive from my grandmother, who didn't have much perspective. I called my grandmother to try and figure out what was going on. She apologized to me for causing drama and said she would not be involving herself any longer. My wife wanted Grandma to call and apologize to her, but that didn't happen. Edit 2. I appreciate everyone taking the time to give me some perspective. It sounds like I have more to do than get over it by self-flagellation or baking an apology cake. Edit 3. I really appreciate everyone giving their time to read and reply to my post. Your wife sounds exhausting. So how long until the pain you need to feel is physical? I wonder if she'll be mad if you leave her on the nearest curb. The raccoons can have her. Make reparations to yourself, man. There's no reason for you to be constantly walking on eggshells and praying that someone doesn't wrong her in some stupid fashion. Free yourself. Better for you, better for baby. You are in a toxic relationship.